This Guy's Garage. Like and subscribe.
Quebecers have known for a long time now that this Prime Minister is not worth the cost. But the Bloc doesn't seem to understand that. The Bloc apparently wants to drastically increase taxes. And they even support differential and preferential application of the taxes. And we've heard in the media that there's been a guarantee that the Liberal Prime Minister will remain in power for another 2 years. So yet another costly coalition. What concessions did the Prime Minister make to the Bloc Quebecois in order to stay in power for another 2 years? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, our government was proud to follow in Quebec's footsteps when it comes to daycare. Our government is also very proud to follow in Quebec's footsteps when it comes to climate action. Quebec has led very well. Quebec was one of the first provinces to put a price on pollution. And we are very happy to work with all Quebecers for the environment. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Yes, but my question was for the Prime Minister, who is hiding and who is not worth the cost. My question is about the Bloc Quebecois' decision to vote in favor of home heating taxes. Today, though, we've learned that the Bloc's desire to drastically increase this Prime Minister's carbon taxes are not random. The Bloc Quebecois, in fact, has promised the Prime Minister that they will keep him in power in a 2-year costly coalition. What concessions did the Bloc get in order to keep this incompetent and costly Prime Minister in power? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, the opposition leader wants to talk about Quebec. Fine. The opposition leader wants to move Quebec backwards. They want to move Quebec backwards on basic rights, women's rights, climate change. They want to put firearms back in the streets in Quebec. The Conservative leader, he wants to send Quebecers and Canadians back to the Stone Age. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The Prime Minister is in Ottawa today, so the question is for him. He is panicked now and put a pause on the carbon tax for 3% of Canadians in ridings where his polls are plummeting and his MPs are revolting. Also revolting were the comments of a Liberal Rural Affairs Minister who stated that other Canadians would have got a pause on the pain if they had elected more Liberals. Yet Northern Ontarians did elect Liberals. So the question for the Prime Minister, will he allow a free vote for his Northern MPs on our common sense motion to keep the heat on and take the tax off?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I have explained to the Leader of the Opposition through many different question periods over the past number of days, home heating oil is 2 to 4 times as expensive as natural gas. It accelerated by 75% in 2022. We have put into place a plan that will enable people to get off of heating oil, to have free heat pumps. It will save them up to $2,500 a year. It will make it more affordable, and at the same time, it will allow us to fight climate change. That is true for the 270,000 households that use heating oil here in Ontario.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The question was for the Prime Minister, who first was dividing and now is in hiding. He wants to quadruple his tax, but now he's had to back down and give a pause to the pain for 3% of people in ridings where his polls are plummeting and his MPs are in full revolt against him. His Liberal Minister of Rural Affairs said if people in other regions want the same pause on the pain, they have to elect Liberal MPs. However, many did. We have a Liberal MP in Calgary and one in Edmonton. Will they be allowed a free vote on the common sense Conservative motion to take the tax off and keep the heat on?
The The Honourable Minister.
It's important to have thoughtful public policy prescriptions that address issues around affordability in a long-term way, but also actually address the issue of climate change. And I would say, Mr. Speaker, the only person who is hiding in this chamber is the leader of the official opposition, who is hiding the fact that he either does not believe in climate change, or he certainly doesn't think it's very important. He has not spoken the words climate change since he was elected, and he has no plan. At some point, he needs to tell Canadians, what is your plan to address the climate crisis?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, I'm right here while the Prime Minister hides and divides. And why wouldn't he hide? After all, he's in panic mode. He first promised to quadruple the tax on everyone, and then after I beat him in that debate, he decided to back down and lift the tax off 3% of people for a short period of time. His Rural Affairs Minister said that if other Canadians wanted the same pause from the pain, they needed to elect more Liberals. Well, Thunder Bay elected 2 Liberals. It's a very cold place. Will the members for Thunder Bay be given a free vote on our motion to take the tax off and keep the heat on?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, let me tell you who is missing in action when it comes to protecting Canadians and their affordability. And I'm talking about the affordability of life for our seniors. You know who's missing in action? The Conservative leader. It took him 29 days to speak up for the Canada Pension Plan. But none of us should have been surprised, because last year he sought to eviscerate that plan, which is so important to every single Canadian, by seeking to freeze contributions. We can't trust Conservatives with our pensions or anything else.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The NDP voted 16 times in favor of the carbon tax. Its leader has supported quadrupling the tax on the home heating of every single Canadian. But after working-class union households have been abandoning his party for the Conservatives in droves, he has now flip-flopped. But that has involved the courage of admitting he was wrong. Will the Prime Minister show the same courage and admit he, just like the NDP leader, is dead wrong and vote for our common sense motion to keep the heat on and take the tax off?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I find it helpful when you deal with people who are closest to the problem. And in Atlantic, Canada, we have an Ecology Action Centre based in Halifax who wrote a statement that I think was prescient to the debate that's going on here. It says, energy poverty and climate change represent a direct threat to working class people in Nova Scotia. As a society, we must work together to ensure households with low incomes can transition away from expensive fossil fuels to technologies like heat pumps that are cheaper, better for our health, and afford us the comforts associated with heating and cooling. Policy makers are finally rising to meet the challenge, Mr. Speaker.